And today we have a famous Davao NGO leader. Many of you will remember her as the vice presidential running mate of Raul Rojo. But her real claim to fame is that among many other achievements, she organized the historic NGO Forum on Women in 1995 in Beijing. She is a longtime resident of Davao City. She has been a peace negotiator, has been involved in the peace process since 1977, and she is also the founder of the Mindanao Commission on Women. Join me in welcoming Irene Santiago.
Good to be here.
Thank you for making time for this. So we're conducting a series of interviews. We want to understand President-elect Duterte more. Maybe we can start by talking about your experience as a resident of Davao City. How has he been as mayor all these 22, 23 years?
Well, you know what Davao City is like now, right? You can leave your iPhone on the table and nobody will pick it up. I mean, this is a kind of safe and secure place it is, but it wasn't like this before. I remember in 1985, my family actually left the city because there were 5 killings a day. I mean, my children were growing up. When my 14-year-old son wasn't home by 6 o'clock when it got dark, I would be in hysterics. So you can't live that way. And our children also went to Manila once and said, there are no soldiers here. And then I thought, this is the way they're growing up, you know. So this is the kind of I think transformation that we've seen in Davao in the past 22 years. So I've worked on as an NGO. I've always worked in the not-for-profit sector, and it has been very interesting to work with the city, and that it's a bureaucracy that listens. It's a government that listens. So in fact, I was talking to some of the women that I work with, and they said it's really crowdsourcing. They do a lot of crowdsourcing. So
before the term was invented.
Yeah. So when you look at the coverage, you know, of Duterte, and they all say he's going to be I remember there was a political officer of an embassy, I will not name, came and said, he's going to be another Marcos. And it took me a while. It took me a while to think of why are they doing this? And then I said, no. I said, because he violates human rights. And I said, you know, with Marcos, I feared for my life every second. I said, I have never feared for my life for even a bit of a second. You know, in the past 22 years, he's been there. So it is necessary to understand his own methods, I think, and why he's doing things. As he is certainly not a dictator, because as I said, he listens. It's a crowd source. When you listen to him in Gikan sa Masa para sa Masa, his TV show every week, and you listen to all the cuss words and all that, you know, and I'm going like, why does he have to do it that way? You know, I asked a friend who works in the city, I said, why does he have to do it that way? And then I realized that he has the psychology of the people. He really knows what the psychology is. It's almost like a father. You know, you have to do this or else. And I saw this when just as an example, when the city was moving to having these big trash cans. Okay. And so he came on Sunday and said, heaven help you, pa, kung kawato ninyo, if you still haven't helped you. I mean, so I was looking at him and I said, that's like a father, you know. He said, don't steal, you know, the cans. And so now I don't think we've ever lost a trash can in the city. So it's the same thing. I'm going to make you eat your cigarette. You know, it's that kind of thing. Because I was also surprised. Why does he have to talk that way? It's probably the only way people understand. You're not supposed to do it. So when during the campaign, Marro has started talking about disente, you know, disenteng pananalita, disente kang tao. Hindi maintindihan ng tao yun, no? It's a very see. I think Duterte has his finger on the pulse. So part of that is the language. And I think that's why he is as good a public official, a government official as he is.
How much is he his mother's son? I mean, his mother, Soledad Duterte, was almost a larger-than-life figure. She was the leader of the anti-Marcos struggle.
NGO.
Yeah, he was an NGO leader. How much is he his mother's son?
Very much his mother's son. Because Nanay Soling was very... She fought for the downtrodden. She was always working for justice and fairness, always against oppression. So that's why she led the yellow movement in Davao. And she was very compassionate. She's nanay, you know, she was very compassionate. But so you can imagine Rodrigo Duterte growing up, you know. You can tell from the fact that he was expelled from school. He was not exactly, he was a naughty boy, right? So Nanay Soling really disciplined him. And I think that's why, you know, when he went to her grave, that after elections, he said, tabangi ko ma, you know, because, help me. Because I think that's what she was, you know, to him, you know, the straight path, you know, you're going to be this kind of person, and really try to discipline him, because she was widowed early. The father died early on, and so she was the big figure, you know, in his life. So it's very much, and I see him, you know, her values, her principles, what she stood for, you know, that's Rodrigo Duterte.
There are now mixed opinions about the recent issue of catcalling, wolf whistling, and I don't know if you follow on social media, but the debate has exploded, and there are a lot of people trying to weigh in on the issue. What is your take on that, and how do you think should the public, should media, should women look at that incident, or how should they understand how Duterte speaks?
You know, I've been working on. I'm one of the pioneers of the modern women's movement in this country. So I'm watching this, and my take is that he is very much a product of the sexist culture of this country. Patriarchy is alive and well. I mean, I even looking at his cabinet, and I'm going, you know, men. Although he is comfortable around women who lead and who manage, he's comfortable, but that's not his inner circle. And I was coming here today, I was saying, why is he not comfortable with women in his inner circle? I said, because they can't make the jokes they make. They can't talk the way they want to talk. You know, that's why and that is one of the reasons women are not in decision-making positions, precisely because of that kind of culture. Okay, so there we still need a lot of work on that, and patriarchy, as you know, is male dominated, male centered, male identified, and there's an obsessive need for control by men. That's what patriarchy, and so it's alive. It's very much alive and well. So and so you can see he's a product of that sexist culture. But having said that, so when people say, so why do you support him? Why do you support him? He says all those outrageous things. I say, so why do you support him? And I say, because of the evidence of his work. What has he done? And there are things we've done in Davao City that no other city in this country has done. So policies and procedures, benefits to women that you can't find anywhere else. I mean, I just give you an example. About 3 weeks ago, one of my neighbors in the farm was raped and almost killed. Her jaw was broken. I mean, the guy smashed her jaw with a big stone.
Sorry to hear.
And so then I told the gender office. I said, this is what happened, and they took over. Okay, they took over. She has a new jaw, paid for totally by the city, because the city has a fund for medical expenses. The guy, of course, has been caught and he's there in jail. There's counseling for her. If she needs a lawyer, there's a bunch of lawyers who are willing to are there and paid for by the city. So you're thinking, and you're thinking of a city that does the right things. So there are those things. So this is a product of the sex culture. We need to work with him on his language and his behavior. But he's done other things, and he's done the right things on other things. So he's a work in progress, and I'm willing to work on that. So
that's
it's not like I'm willing to live with that. That's different. I'm willing to work with that. Yeah.
That's great. I can understand the appeal of decades of evidence, as you put it. But at the same time, you were a journalist. I mean, you did your master's in Colombia. At a very young age, you're editor of a newspaper. You know that words have consequences. So when you say, actually, if all the interviews are done, this is the most forward-looking perspective I've heard, that you want to work with him on that. Maybe you need to work out his own relationship with language, especially when it comes to women.
Yeah, no,
precisely because words have consequences.
No, but also because I teach a lot. I do a lot of training on gender. And that's what I say. I say language names our world. Right? So when you say, for example, you men, I said, where am I in that world? There's a word for me. Why isn't it there? That kind of thing. So those are the things that we need to work on with him. The meaning of words, and especially coming from whom? From a president. So those are things that I think. So when I started, when he was about to run, and I was one of those that said, go run already, I asked myself, is this something that's going to somebody like him with that kind of language? Is that going to be? Is that important to me? And I think women like Leonor Briones and Judy Tagualo, who also, Judy was also head of women's studies at UP, and it's probably thinking, why am I doing this? Why? Because here is a seismic opportunity. I think this is of seismic proportions. For this man, he is so bold. his vision for this country is so bold, vis-a-vis social justice. And so for me, I am willing to work with him on his language and his behavior, but work with him also on this on the seismic transformation that is now possible because of the kind of bold leadership, vision and leadership that he can provide.
What kind of advice can you give us journalists? Especially he makes a distinction between national media, Manila-based media, and local media, and he seems to either enjoy playing tricks on the national media or really has a feeling of resentment towards Manila-based media. How should we? I mean, it never occurred to us to boycott. I mean, that was a call from an international organization, and we will never abdicate our duty of reporting. But how should we, moving forward, how should we relate to him?
I think going back now again to his being a boy, and because I'm trying to understand him too. Why does he do that? And I say, it's probably because you can't threaten him. Somebody who was, expelled from school must have been a naughty boy. And so he was probably threatened all the way, when he was growing up, and found a way to deal with threats. And the way to deal with threats is to threaten in turn. And so I said, don't do that. Don't threaten him. So probably it will have to do for journalists. It will have to be the style in which you ask the questions. Because remember, he said, and then he started, going into his bad words again. Why will you ask me about my medical records? I don't know whether it was style or what, but that I think is one thing to remember, is that he doesn't take threats kindly. I mean, you ask Matt Rojas, he doesn't take the threats kindly. So there's probably a way of reworking, reframing, restyling, the way questions are asked. I am also, having said that, I am happy for the chance to have a national conversation
about the role of media.
The role of media, the role of women, how do you behave towards women, and all of those. That national conversation is good because transformation starts with consciousness raising, right? We change structures by changing consciousness first. And to me, that is the essence of the promise of a Duterte government. The essence is that I'm giving you a simple definition of structure. Structure is nothing but a relationship. It's what is the nature of the relationship, and to him that is key. Key to him is inequality, injustice, unfairness, oppression. That is so key. I mean, that is Nanay Soling all over again, but key to him. And so, if you want to look at what is he's doing with national media, with everything, it's really saying, where is the fulcrum of power now? What is the nature of our relationship? Is it equal or unequal? Who benefits, who suffers? So that to me is the lens that we need to use for everything he does. Everything he does is really structural. The transformation is going to be in the relationships. Okay, this is the first president from Mindanao. This is the person who is not afraid to threaten, if not to challenge all the major the major institutions, you know, and I teach, and so, and just for people to understand what is happening. So I say, okay, structures and relationships. But in the structures, the relationships are shown through institutions, okay? So the institutions are nothing but sets of rules, all right? So who sets those rules? Who are the people who have set those rules? Always not us. And that is the attraction, I think, of Rodrigo Duterte. The attraction is that people all of a sudden feeling, wow, we are powerful. We made him president. That's one, right? We can clean up after ourselves, and therefore we're part of this change. Huh? So to me, the fact that that those sets of rules are now being set by people, and not by the usual elite, oligarchs, etc. That is what I mean by seismic
Opportunity.
yeah, the seismic opportunity.
One of the terms that are probably being used often lately is the concept of an imperial Manila. How do you think is the president-elect planning to deal with that? Is it really an issue for him? Do you think that there's really a disconnect? Because like the incoming PCOO had used that term because when he was talking to Davao media, saying that he wanted to work with Davao media. Do you think it is good that this is, as you said, being a part of national conversation?
Yeah.
And how do you think would that conversation be able to resolve the issue, the divisiveness, for example, in the country?
I think we have to put that conversation within the context of the drive towards federalism, or else it's just whining, complaining, about something that we've complained about for a long time. But I think the discussion on Imperial Manila is deeper than just that's where the decisions are made, but really it's part of the drive towards federalism. So I see it as a necessary trigger for the conversation, but that conversation should not end there, or else it's just whining, right?
Is there a red line that I don't mean to put you on the spot, but maybe I'll just rephrase my question. For instance, in his relationship with the media, where do we draw the line? We can understand that he has a different way of relating to us, but we also might feel the need to push back when we
want to challenge him. When you need to challenge him,
yes,
I mean,
yes.
and because that's a role. That's a role of media.
Especially in an adversarial
is to
setup.
And that's where creativity comes in, I suppose. You can't use the same tools you've been using when you just want to be adversarial. As I said, if you understand that he will not take that lightly, then you don't do that. Maybe say, please help me understand, Mr. President, or something like that. It's just that kind of rephrasing. But certainly, I've been trained as a journalist, and there is no way I'm going to say that, stop asking the questions or stop challenging him, because he needs to be challenged. And I think he likes that. I mean, he was a prosecutor, so he likes that. I think he just he's at that stage where he still needs to prove who he is. This is my identity. I think that, when that is set, he's going to be more confident, I think. As one of my friends has written, Rodrigo Duterte is an acquired taste. it's like durian. It's an acquired taste. It's not like love at first sight. Yeah. So knowing those things about him, I think as you get to know him better, and he becomes also more confident that you're not threatening him, putting against the wall, giving him, naming him falsely, I think when he becomes confident, then I think there will be less irritants in the relationship.
It seems to me, we spoke earlier about the fact that he has a reputation for long-term strategy. I must confess, I'm at a loss to understand what his long-term strategy is. At this point, he hasn't taken his oath as president, and yet it seems to me as if he is ready to make enemies rather than to unite the rest of the country behind him. Certainly, more people have voted for him as president, 16 million votes, than any other president, with the exception of Marcos in the sham election of 1981. Marcos got 18 million votes at that time. But there were more votes just for the next two presidential candidates, Rojas and Poe, put together. I'm not asking him, if he can read his mind and so on, but can you hazard a guess why at this point he seems to be ready to not only to take offense but to create offense? Yesterday, let me just end with this. We were at the victory party, and out of the blue, he had something to say about Rojas also. And maybe Rojas supporters who might be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt might be thinking, what is this guy up to? What is this guy up to?
I think he's trying to what's the term? Sifting the chaff from the grain.
Okay.
Who are the people I can trust and who are the people I cannot? Who are not just trust but also who can do, who can deliver. That I think that is classic Rodrigo Duterte. That is very classic. Because when you ask why, why that person, and it's very classic. So in fact, it's not over. It's going to be it's and to do more, and then he will know who is false and who's genuine.
Well, he can start with the hundreds of congressmen shifting party alliances.
Those are the false ones. Yeah, well, he knows. He's no fool.
That's true.
But those of us who follow organizational development rules, you do this, you do that, what is it that Jim Collins said? The right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people on the right seat on the bus. Somehow the way he does it is different than just really 1, 2, 3. He's just all over the place. He's just it's very different. Yun ang sinasabi, mahirap siyang basahin. If you follow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because he can go 1, 10, 5, ganun siya.
Okay.
So ganun siguro one way of making basahin.
But he has certainly done a bold move in inviting members of the National Democratic Front.
Yes.
To sit in his cabinet, and yet in Davao City itself, there are a few signs, graffiti, saying CPP, NPA, NDF, #1 human rights abuser. What should I read anything into that? I mean, what is that about?
One of the things about Duterte that he's he insists on is freedom of expression, di ba? Yung freedom of expression yan. Dito, you don't even need to get a permit to rally. Oh, dito pwedeng kaya hindi nangyari yung Zamboanga siege, ay ang siege dito sa Davao. You know, the Missouri wanted to put up his flag. Go ahead, put up your flag. Yung mga ganon. Whereas doon sa Zamboanga, hindi ka pwede mag-put up ng flag. So parang sa kanya, sige, you want to do that, freedom of expression is very important sa kanya. So hindi niya yan isusuppress. No, just because I'm now, inviting the members of the left into my cabinet, hindi pwedeng ganun din. I will suppress.
Yeah, but do you think that's indicative? There might be some resistance even in Davao City to the idea of.
I imagine they're having conversations. I can imagine the conversations that are going on in the NDF.
But speaking as a peace negotiator, this is a good sign, right?
It's a very good sign, and I have to admit that is one of the reasons I really urged him to run. Because here's one person, I said, if you can only solve, sabi ko ganun, yung dalawang insurgencies, yung NDF at saka and the Moro issue. Sabi ko, ma-solve natin yan. Wow, we can really go, become really a prosperous nation. So I saw that. So for somebody, okay, there were two obstacles. Okay, for the MILF, the discussion with the Moro, ang pinaka-obstacle is the Constitution. Yan. No, anything that has the Philippine Constitution. Noon, when I was a negotiator, talagang stop na yung discussion ninyo basta may Constitution. So yan ang pinaka. And here is Dutertes saying, I'm open to constitutional amendments. O di, big deal, di ba? Okay, one. Then the other one is with the NDF. So ano ang pinaka sa bakit hindi mag-prosper? Yung release of political prisoners. Sinabi na niya, I'm willing to release all political prisoners. Pwedeng umuwi si Joma Sison. Pwedeng ganun. Ngayon, and it caught me off guard na four departments will have cabinet members from the left. So yung mga obstacles, the mga major obstacles na kung bakit hindi umuunsad yung peace, tinanggal niya. So, are you telling me now na these are not big opportunities for peace? Talagang laki-laki ng opportunities for peace.
Ma'am, what are the prospects for the Bangsamoro agreement? It has seemingly taken a backseat with the focus now on the CBP and NPA-NDF. Will it push through as it was envisioned by the Aquino administration, or will the focus shift to federalism instead?
The context is still the drive towards federalism, but I think that we have to be cognizant of the fact that there were two agreements. Two agreements negotiated. The MILF one was negotiated for 17 years. Yung ganon. So parang, are you telling me that the Moros are going to get the same things as the rest of the country that did not go through any struggle? Yun siguro ang basic question ngayon, di ba? And that is fairness. That is being fair. And a deeper also understanding of ano talaga ang pinaglalaban ng Moro. Ayan. Pagka nakalimutan naman natin yung anong pinaglaban ng Moro, mali na naman. Diba? So while there's a drive for federalism, we have always to go back to ano talaga ang mga pinaglalaban ng Moro. So no, it's not. I don't think a president, when he was a candidate, who in every speech talked about historical injustice, I don't think he's going to set that aside. That is very much front and center of his program.
Do you think, ma'am, the BBL would prosper in Congress?
I don't think that. I think what needs we need to have is an enabling law. Diba? We need an enabling law. After an agreement, you need an enabling law. Whether that will be the BBL or another or whatever, that I think is going to have to be discussed.
You've been in close touch with Jess Dureza, who is coming back as Presidential Peace Advisor. How do you see the work of OPAP going forward?
OPAP has a lot of things to do, but the other thing also that this administration has decided on is that there will be peace and development. They will work on both peace and development. So hindi pwedeng separate na lang peace tapos iba yung development. So, Jess Dureza is also taking care of development. So it will be quite. I think they will have to sit down. OPAP has to sit down with Minda, because it's the main arm for development, on who takes care of what. And my own thinking there is that Minda, for example, whatever development they will do will have to be conflict sensitive. Okay, so because those are things that I don't think have been emphasized a lot, but the fact that Jess will take care of those two, okay. So to me, I think there will probably be OPAP will probably be more streamlined and really see what is it that we are supposed to do, what's our real mandate. And maybe we're doing development when we should really be just doing peace. Because I believe I think Pope Paul II also said that peace is development and development is peace.
Pope Paul VI.
I don't think so. Even if it's a pope said that.
Development is another name for peace. I think that's
yes. I don't think so. I think the clearer we are about what is peace building, and what is development, there is some overlap, but it's not the same. It's not synonymous, because I have a very simple definition of peace. Okay, peace building is the process of increasing connectors and decreasing dividers so that development can occur. So if it's that simple, it's in fact very strategic. You know now what you're going to do. Yeah? You increase the connectors and you decrease the dividers. Okay. In development, on the other hand, development is the process of increasing capacities and decreasing vulnerabilities so that we can lead long, happy lives. Right?
Right.
So
two elegant formula.
No, it's very simple. It's not. I'm glad you call it elegant, but it is simple. And I think part of the problem has really been that we're not clear. So the peace people doing development, the development people not doing any peace. So I think that clarifying who does what and with what lens should you do peace and what lens should you also do development. I think that will be something.
And you think that Secretary Dureza embraces these two formulas, understands
understands it. Just is. He's been around a while. He's done both. In fact, he was chair of Minda at the same time he was presidential advisor. I think there's a sense now of, because of the openness of the president, to be able to find the ways that will lead to efficiency and effectiveness. I think that's where it is.
Should there be more women in the peace process?
You asking me that?
You had Ging Deles as Presidential Peace Advisor. You had Professor
Ferrer,
that's
yeah.
right, should there be? Actually, I have a follow-up question because.
No, wait. Would you ask the same question? Would you say, should we have more men? I mean, you're asking me, should we have more women? Should we have more men? I mean, it's like,
No, okay. Maybe it's a very weak premise, but my real question has to do with encouraging more participation by women from Mindanao in the Duterte administration. This is something that I brought up yesterday with Father Joel Tabor of Ateneo de Davao. My question is, what would you say to some women who would be interested? They're from Mindanao, they're fully competent and so on, but who might feel confused about the president's language. Maybe the president is conscious of the vulnerabilities of women, but might not be seen as doing everything he can to increase capacities of women in government. What do you say to women from Mindanao, very competent, who would like to join the government but are now hesitating?
Hesitate no more. I think nothing has ever been in a patriarchal society has ever really been given to us that we not demand, and so we have to demand. And I remember talking to the MILF. Who asked me, because I wanted more women to be involved, to be participating, to have leadership positions in the MILF. And I told myself, how do I convince these men? And in the end, it was very easy. I said, do women have life experiences that are different from men? I said, and it hit home. I didn't talk about equality. I didn't talk about rights. I just said, do we have life experiences that are different from men? And there, from there on, there was no defensiveness. But because what is equal? How equal are you? There's none of that. We have life experiences. I said, let's just look at the economy. I said, do women have experiences in the production, consumption, and distribution of goods and services? Because that's the definition of economics 101. Is production, consumption, distribution. Do we have experiences there? If you're building a new nation, shouldn't you have those experiences also when you start creating the structures and institutions for your new nation? After that, no more. So here is what I would say to the president. Yes, women have life experiences, and I think he knows that, because in Davao City there are very many women in positions of leadership. I think that what has happened is, with all the goings on with the things about the cabinet and all the things he has to fend off and all that, somehow the issue of having more women in positions of leadership has taken a backseat. But so I think women, I said, hesitate no more, demand. You're no less a lady because you demand. Ladyship is not something I aspire for anyway. So I think that in the coming days there is now a list of women from civil service who have civil service eligibility, director level, etc. There's now a list that's being submitted to the committee of all the women who are ready for the 6,000 positions that are available.
Wow, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, we have a list from of civil service eligible women. That thing.
Ma'am, We asked the same question yesterday of both Senator Cayetano and
Father
Father
Tabora.
Tabora about the Davao death squads. Father Tabora had a very interesting answer. He said that a survey was commissioned some time ago, and it seems that people of Davao were embraced or accepted or tolerated the perception that there were these 1,200 lives and so on. But at the same time, the survey captured their perception that the justice system was not working. How should we understand these allegations? Some of them, said at the level of, let's say, Archbishop Antonio Ledesma of Cagayan de Oro. How should we understand this?
I think we can understand that within the framework of power and powerlessness. When people feel powerless to change things, they will take whatever it is that works for them. Because they're powerless to change it, so they will accept. In other words, even if it is against your own beliefs, you will accept it. I think but that is the reason why, and that's why Rodrigo Duterte must be cognizant of that. That now that you've given the people a chance to feel that they are powerful, that they might not be as forgiving or as accepting of those types of methods. No? Because why would you do that? Because the justice system is so bad and I feel so powerless to change it. Okay, do this because I want a safe and secure society. However, if you have a government that then says, okay, you're starting to feel more powerful, then we can change it the way it should be changed. Do you understand? There are things you accept because you want to feel safe and secure, right? So I think that's probably why you have the kind of ratings that you have. But it's the only way. I always look at power and powerlessness. I told you, inequality, structures, the nature of the inequality, and how people behave as a result of that. So in a sense, I am influenced by the structure, but the structure also influences me. That kind of thing.
Ma'am, going back to the peace talks, what do you think should Duterte do with the MNLF? I know he offered to senior his swag, but how do you think should he deal with that, especially that there are a number of factions within the MNLF itself?
The MNLF has to be brought in, for sure, and the various factions have to be brought in because it's the same Bangsamoro. It's the same people. There needs to be a lot of consensus building. I think that's no more negotiation. It's consensus building time, right? And the fact that you have a president who says, I want everything to be inclusive. It's the force of his leadership that will make people talk to one another. I am so sure of that, because when you believe in somebody and you start trusting one another, there are things that you are willing to give and give up when there is trust. So those are the things that I think are important now. It's consensus building and trust building. Those are the things that need to get done so that we can have both MN and well, the moral issue.
That's right. But we did have a peace agreement in 1996 with MNLF. Do we need another one with the Miswari faction? Or should the new form of the BBL as required by the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro be expanded to include Miswari's faction as well as perhaps other factions?
But that's where we need consensus.
Okay.
And that's where this conversation needs to go. I don't. That's probably the end product is the end product. No, but the process is of building that consensus is important because you have to build. As I said, you begin with trust. You begin with trust, and listening to the other, to one and the other, to everybody, listening, making sure that you're listening. I think that's what needs feeling included. I think is very important. Accepting of everyone's, not being legal, not being, but really accepting of everyone else, and that is what the Duterte wants. It says, an inclusive, and even the Lumad, the indigenous peoples will have to have a voice. And it's not just MNMI, it's also the various tribes that are Islamic and then non-Islamic, the IB. So there is a lot of, to me, that's what peace building needs to be. It needs to be consensus building. I really don't like to look at what is the legal framework, what is the, that is what peace is like for me.
Ma'am, our last question would be, if you could give one advice, what would you tell the President-elect, Rodrigo Duterte?
This is going to sound really funny, but just be yourself. Because Rodrigo Duterte has a lot of sterling qualities that this country needs. His forthrightness, his boldness, his commitment to the poor and to those who don't have the law on their side. So he has a lot, and his fearlessness, that kind of, I'm not afraid. And that confidence that I can lose everything. I did not covet this office. I mean, how, so this is a moment for us. So I said, just be yourself. I mean, we can work on your mouth, but your heart is where it's. We've waited for that kind of heart for a long time. So just be yourself, and we're all here to help you. And I think that's why people have supported him, because they know that they can support such a man, and that man will support them.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for making time for this.